everyone, and welcome to Table Topics. Today we are talking about the H1N1 strain of the influenza virus, also known widely as swine flu. Latest updates, well, as of this morning, things were going to go worse. The World Health Organization was going to set the highest alert, and a few hours later, now the time that we're shooting, things have apparently calmed down. So what we want to talk about is the different reactions to the pandemic, and also how people in general react to threats of flu and virus. I remember the avian flu, my mom went ahead and stockpiled. We are still trying to get through cans of food from the avian flu scare. Yeah, how's this affected you?
This is one thing that even if the media overblows it, I think it's okay, because I do think we do need to take precautions because it could get bad. So in this case, I do think it's better to be safe than sorry.
I think the word pandemic to me is really scary. Not necessarily that I know exactly what it means, but I just picture a bunch of people like with their hands raised screaming, running outside of a building when there's a pandemic. But I can understand that, especially, you're mentioning your parents. I think if I was a parent, I would probably go to that extent because you don't know when it's going to get that serious. On the other hand, they did say that this pandemic is also a mild strain. So although it's spreading globally, it's a very mild disease. Thus far, most people aren't dying outside of Mexico.
It has spread across nations, and especially with modern travel, that can happen. The first case in Canada appeared in the last few days because apparently a farmer went to Mexico, came back, and this strain travels from person to swine, swine to swine, and person to person, which is the scary thing. On your side, the influenza virus, it does change up. And so every few years we see a new version of the influenza virus because, so there was avian flu and now there's swine flu, same nature of virus, but it seems that as soon as as many people in the world have built up a resistance to the virus strain changes and we see it again.
They're saying there's no problem, you can go ahead, you can eat your pork, because a lot of pork producers are now very frustrated because obviously people are withdrawing from touching pork altogether. So I think it's really important that the media is accurate about the kind of information, but I think the WHO was also very specific in saying, media, you need to have a certain amount of control, because anytime this kind of story comes up, it's a great news-breaking story, so they're going to overplay it. I have eaten pork, I will say, since I have, just because they're saying that there is no evidence at all that it spreads through pork. Now, what's interesting is a man who works at a pig farm came back from Mexico, spread the disease to the pigs, which they're saying that if a human spreads it to a pig, if it's then respread back, it mutates and becomes a new virus again, and then that is a scary challenge once again.
Well, I guess that's why they changed the name now. They don't call it swine flu anymore because of the reaction of the public, and pork farmers were very concerned because their whole industry was at risk. But I do believe that it would be intelligent choice not to go to Mexico right now. In fact, from what I hear, if you are buying medical insurance, travel insurance, you will not be covered if you go to Mexico because of the warning that's already been put out.
By the government telling everyone to stay home, they're actually putting a bigger risk on the economy as where it's at today than the risk posed by the swine flu itself.
Yes.
So you have to think about those reactions as well.
The Toronto was hit really hard during SARS, and were either of you in Toronto at that time?
I wasn't.
No?
I was actually in Taiwan.
Oh,
and
interesting.
So SARS actually happened, and my uncle actually volunteered at a SARS hospital. So there was a designated hospital where people had to go if they had SARS, and they controlled it very well. People who went in to volunteer had to go through a whole quarantine process, and then they were allowed to go home, and it didn't spread. So I was really amazed, but it was scary, and I did end up wearing a mask for a period of time. It was surreal because you go out on the streets and everyone was wearing a mask. And I remember my father came to visit me from Canada, and when I went to the airport, we didn't even send him inside. Usually when we say goodbye, you go in, hug and kiss, but we just said goodbye on the outside because we wanted to reduce any contact with, the large population.
If you had to stockpile in your home food, what would you buy?
A lot of canned soup, I guess. I'm a big fan of chunky soup.
Yeah, I like canned vegetarian chili.
Okay,
How
you
about
have to
you?
check the expiration dates. Oh, water first
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
and then
Yes.
I guess I would get canned things with long expiration dates and protein. If you have your own comments or experiences about the H1N1 virus to share, tips for others, if you have your own advice in case zombies attack, then please write it in the comments section below. And as always, thanks for joining us.